Okay, welcome back to the War Room. We're going to go live we're going to try to with the good offices of Real America's Voice. Remember, you can get us on americasvoice.news. Go there right now. The show is showing in living color. We got tons of guests to book for the second hour, but we need to go live breaking news. Rudy Giuliani's in Philadelphia laying out the logic of this federal lawsuit that they're going to throw into federal court, that the CNN and these guys wanted to Bigfoot, and they called it right when Rudy's press conference started. Can we go to Rudy live? Okay, as soon as let's pick Rudy up and Rudy Giuliani.
All right, Darrell Brooks, Philadelphia resident, here for about 2 years. I come out here to support our president, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to be on the go to the poll to watch. A lot of us were excited about the president winning a second term. And a lot of individuals, African Americans in Philadelphia, especially men, were talking about the 401k plan and how they were excited because their finances. So when I go to the poll, it was basically they put us at 20 feet away, and they said no cameras, no phones, you cannot take pictures. I was even harassed by some of the Democratic Party poll watchers, and that is also recorded. And then next thing you know, it was 6 feet away, and they still would not allow us to see anything that was happening. We saw people working on the ballots, but we didn't know any names. We didn't see anything. We don't know if people voted twice or 3 times. We didn't know if dead people were voting. But we were there and we were watching, and it's such a shame. This is a democracy, Philadelphia, and they did not allow us to see anything, and was it corrupt or not? But give us the opportunity as poll watchers to view all the documents, all the ballots. And listen, we just want a fair election. And we viewed that it was not fair at all. It was not fair to allow us to, you could allow us to look at the ballots, some ballots, but nothing. We were kept away from everything.
You're listening on War Room to the press conference live from Philadelphia, bringing people up to have signed affidavits. This is Rudy Giuliani.
Hello, I'm Matt Silver. I went for 16 hours straight poll watching. It took about 30-45 minutes to get through, despite me having credentials of all possible manner. Eventually I showed an email proving that I was supposed to go in. They at least let me through. When I was there, I was turned away for a tablet. They did not want any tablets or computers there. I had to bring that elsewhere. Eventually, when I was let through, you were not able to get anywhere near the ballots. There were 3 rows of people counting ballots. The closest at my day, may have been 15 feet away. Then there was another row, then there was another row. To the extent that you could see anything, we were told repeatedly, including by Democratic poll watchers, including by police, that if they see us taking a photograph or a video, we'll be thrown out and not let back in. The only place you could use a phone was several hundred feet away from the ballots. I don't know what they were trying to protect. When I was there, I saw some people looking at the ballots legitimately. Some people were flipping through them at a rate of every second or so in a way that we specifically could not even see a single thing. To the extent that you could see a thing in certain boxes, I saw they seemed to be, at least certain boxes, seemed to be in the same unusual pen and seemed to have very similar handwriting. Some boxes were normal, some boxes were like that. When they finished with going through boxes, they put them in the very, very back of the room where you couldn't see a thing hundreds of feet away. Then they put supposedly the same boxes, I can't tell if they are or are not, through separate machines, where they stripped the ballots, the outer casing with people's signatures, to the privacy ballot. At that point, the actual signatures are completely separate from the privacy ballot, and they'll never be able to be tracked back. What I saw was disturbing, and the process seemed to be specifically so we could not observe, and also so we could not challenge. The only way to challenge something was to call an individual called Seth, who was in the back of the room, who could speak to people. And again, they were very worried about photographs and videos.
How were you chosen?
I was asked both by my local ward and the Republican
National
National Lawyers
Philadelphia,
Association.
Pennsylvania. Rudy Giuliani is laying out one of the case he's going to take to federal courts this afternoon or tomorrow for the president, and now you're seeing people that have signed affidavits for this case.
And you're an attorney, right? I am an attorney.
all this behavior happening, who did you go to?
I asked the individuals in the group who were the most senior, and again,
We'll take questions later. When you moved 6 feet closer, as far as you knew, was that based on a court order?
I assume it was a court order. In no case was I closer than 15 feet to anyone counting.
Did they move 6 feet further away?
The closest row for me was 15, 20 feet away. Then there was another row 15, 20 feet beyond that counting, then another 15, 20 beyond that. The only thing I could see at all was the row closest to me.
Okay. And again, how were you selected?
I was selected by the Philadelphia Republican Party.
And credentialed by them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have one. Lizette, would you speak for the other group that were not allowed access, which is another category? Would you mind?
Not at all, thank you.
See if I can get this down a little.
I'll stand on my toes.
Hold on.
Good morning, thanks for being here. I'm Lisette Tarragano. I'm a longtime resident of Philadelphia. T as in Thomas, A-R-R-A-G-A-N-O. You're welcome. I am a longtime resident of Philadelphia, although not native. And quite frankly, I've always been about, I'm a retired attorney, and I got really, really hepped up about watching voter freedom, freedom of speech, and being able to say the words Donald Trump without getting pushed in the corner. And when I really got excited about being asked to observe ballots was when I felt that my way of life is being put in jeopardy. The American way of life being put down for things I say, who I like, and it's not fair. I'm the child and granddaughter of both Holocaust victims and survivors, and I'm the daughter of a World War II veteran and who fought for and or ran away from horrible, horrible times where people are repressed and sent away. And what I noticed when I was brought in to be a poll watcher, I was never brought in actually. I never got past the first identification stage. They kept saying that mine, as well as 5 or 6 other Republicans, their names hadn't been entered into the system. And after the first time it happened, the second time it happened, I had no second thoughts about it being a problem, more that somebody failed to finger us into the computer system. But after a while, what I witnessed, and I said to Mr. Giuliani before, in a morbid curiosity, staring at, I felt insidious fraud going on. I felt that we were kept away from doing our civil duty. That was everybody on both parties should be upset about. This is horrible. We're being restricted. We're being restrained. And I see this nothing as the insidious nature of the Philadelphia and Pennsylvania governments who are keeping us away from doing what we were meant to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that the other 1, 2, 3?
Are here with me today.
The other 3 here are also poll watchers who were deprived of their opportunity to even go into the room. I could have brought, I'm getting a list now to count them, I could have brought about 50 with me, but I didn't do it for 2 reasons. 50 is too many. Number 2, they're afraid. They're afraid of being publicly identified. They're willing to testify in court. They're afraid there'll be repercussions against them because one of the people that did speak on television has already had threats. Jeremy Mercer, who was in charge, has already given a statement twice, both here in Philadelphia the day after the election, I believe, and then he was interviewed on television. Jeremy will basically corroborate the statements that were given about the fact that he was there for 21 hours and then again for another couple of hours. He believes about 300,000 ballots went through. He was unable to see any of them. He requested an opportunity to do so numerous times. Then they went to court. They got an order that they could be 6 feet closer. They were put 6 feet closer, and the tables they were observing were put at least 6 feet further away, or the people moved to tables that were further in the back. The other witnesses who we've interviewed, and we've interviewed about half of the 50, all corroborate to a T exactly what you see here. That they thought they were going to show up to do an inspection. Some of them had inspected absentee ballots before, where you're shown the ballot. The Republican is shown the ballot. The Democrat is shown the ballot. Neither objects, you put it in. If either objects, you put it aside for discussion later. Nothing like that happened here at all. This is a gross miscarriage of the process that would assure that these ballots are not fraudulent. It's a fraud, an absolute fraud. I mean, you can't just submit these ballots and not have them checked. They're highly suspect ballots, mail-in ballots. It's also highly suspect because it's almost mathematically impossible, several people have already testified, to close the lead that Biden closed when things closed on Tuesday night. President Trump was ahead by almost 800,000 votes. And it took a couple of days to be able to produce enough ballots to bring it down. Now, could some of those ballots have been manufactured in advance by the Democrat machine of Philadelphia? It wouldn't be the first time they did it. And then exactly why didn't they want the ballots inspected if the ballots are legitimate? It would seem to me, knowing the suspicion that would exist on a political machine like this, with the reputation that it has, you would go to the extra extent to be transparent. Instead, they went to an extra extent to be secretive, as did the Democrat Party in pretty much the cities they control as a machine like this one. Because although we don't have as many complaints yet, we've got about 12 in Atlanta, we've got about 15 in Detroit, we've got about 20 more in the rest of Michigan. I would say in at least 10 states now, we have complaints almost exactly like this. This will be a statewide case because there are 300,000 ballots equally in question in Pittsburgh with witnesses similar to these witnesses. In some cases, they actually saw a little bit more that would suggest that the ballots were being tampered with, but I have to wait until they're all fully debriefed.
Mr. Giuliani, the race has been called for Vice President Joe Biden. What would it take at this point for President Trump to concede, number one? Number two...
Right.
This is a press conference. This is a press conference with Rudy Giuliani live in Philadelphia, walking through the case that they're going to go to federal court this afternoon and put in. So this is Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, walking through that case.
First of all, obviously he's not going to concede when at least 600,000 ballots are in question. It's not my job to determine if the ballots are right or not. It's their job. But with a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot, the burden under law is on the party that's proposing it, which is why it has to be inspected. It's not my... how can I possibly tell you there's fraud or no fraud? The way they conducted themselves... Because it looks... I can't tell you exactly what's on the ballot. They conducted themselves in a way that suggests that there was fraud. One of the things that does involve fraud is not making it possible for the people who are supposed to inspect. That's a fraud. That's a fraud on the voters. The voters expect that their inspectors are going to be able to inspect. The voters were defrauded of that right. We will not know if those 600,000 ballots were valid, invalid, or not. Having conducted themselves that way, they certainly present a very strong circumstantial case that the ballots were tampered with. Also, the highly unusual, almost mathematically impossible reduction in the vote in that period of time also raises the question that the ballots were tampered with. So they've done everything they can to yell out to you we were tampering with the ballots without being stupid enough to show it to you. They kept our inspectors away. They kept our inspectors away uniformly. I don't think we're going to find a single Republican that ever got to look at one of those ballots when the law requires that we are allowed to look at them. They did it here, and they did it in Pittsburgh. That can't be a coincidence. How do they figure out in Pittsburgh they should do the same thing that happened here? And they didn't do it in other places. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask Corey Lewandowski to explain his experience.
You're a lawyer. You're a well-known lawyer. You're the president's lawyer.
Now, I said I'm going to have...
Well, I appreciate you being here today. Let me just give you one concrete example, not anecdotal, but concrete example of what we believe to be valid voter fraud in the state of Pennsylvania. I draw your attention to an obituary listed for one Denise Ondish in Allegheny County, born 9/10/1946, deceased 10/22/2020. Her application to vote was received on 10/23, the day after she died. It was then mailed by the county back to her on 10/24/2020, 2 days after she had legally passed away. And the ballot was then received back at the county office on November 2nd, 2020. And when you go to the Secretary of State's website today, it says that she voted in this election, effective November 2nd, 2020, a full 9 days after Miss Ondish of Allegheny County passed away. This is not, excuse me, this is not empirical, this is not anecdotal. This is hard evidence, and if you do your jobs from the media, I'm sure you'll find additional examples, and this will be one of many that we will be filing with the court. Thank you very much.
Also, when you say that there's no evidence, the people standing behind me are called witnesses. They will eventually, soon hopefully, appear in court and give this testimony, because we're going to file a federal lawsuit that will cover here and Pittsburgh, and we will have as many witnesses as the court needs. Right now it could be as many as 90 witnesses. That's called evidence that there was a uniform deprivation of the right to inspect, which constitutes a fraud on the people of Pennsylvania, constitutes a fraud on all legitimate voters. Any illegitimate vote cancels a legitimate vote. And the burden of proof as to whether it's a legitimate ballot or not, when it's a mail-in ballot, is on the person proposing the ballot, because there's no other way to justify it. Well, they made it impossible to view those ballots, and there can be only one conclusion as to why you would make it so impossible. Because many of them were fraudulent. And you just don't lose leads like that without corruption. And you're in a city in which voter fraud is professional. It's not just amateur. Some places may be amateurs at voter fraud. Philadelphia is a professional place for voter fraud, because you have a decrepit Democrat machine that you have had in power for 60 years, and it's the reason why you have voter fraud. It's the reason why you have so much crime. It's the reason why you're leading the country in some categories of crime, because these people are not helping the people of Philadelphia. Their loyalty is to the Democrat Party. Oh, please, I'll answer 3 questions, one at a time.
You're listening to Rudy Giuliani. There's a live press conference in Philadelphia.
I'm sorry, I didn't
with Corey
understand.
Lewandowski and Rudy Giuliani laying out the president's case they're going to take to federal court. This, knowing that this was press conference was going to have, this is one of the reasons CNN and all the networks came in and tried to Bigfoot the news. Let's go back to this press conference. Rudy Giuliani, Corey Lewandowski.
We have a right. I mean, here's what I can say about this evidence. This evidence is overpowering in that it suggests we need a very, very detailed hearing. We have to find out exactly how many ballots are implicated, how many ballots were not inspected. The estimates I have so far, but we haven't finished this investigation, is there was about 150 to 200,000 ballots here and about 300,000 ballots in Pittsburgh. It may be more, it may be less. Now that's very serious, because the margin of victory, after being behind by 800,000, was only about 40,000. And it's a little odd that every vote from Tuesday on was all for the one candidate. There's also a very strange thing that happened, which will be part of our case. At some point during the process, when the lead of President Trump reduced from something like 50,000 to 30,000, at the time it was at 50,000, 94% of the vote had been cast. And when we got to 30,000, it was only 90% of the vote cast. Now, I can get experts to tell you how that happens. That happens because, think about it, you increase the denominator. What do you increase the denominator with? New ballots. Nobody was informed of new ballots, unless people were writing them up. This will be a very, very strong case. And I know you won't accept it because of your hateful biases, but let's see if you can try thinking rationally.
Why do you think this deal is enough to overturn the poll that was already made for Joe Biden?
The poll?
The poll. It was called for Joe Biden. Why do you
Because they don't decide the election. The call for Joe Biden isn't. Who was it called by? Oh my goodness, all the networks. Wow! All the networks! We have to forget about the law. Judges don't count. All the networks thought Biden was going to win by 10%. Gee, what happened? Come on, don't be ridiculous. Networks don't get to decide elections. Courts do. Of course, courts set aside elections when they're illegal. In this particular case, I don't know if there's enough evidence to set aside the entire election. Certainly not around the country, maybe in Pennsylvania. However, there certainly is enough evidence to disqualify a certain number of ballots. The ballots that were not properly inspected should be thrown out. And that number of ballots should be taken out of the count. That could affect the election. Shh. I can't hear two people at once. I'm sorry.
Ballots that were postmarked on Tuesday but arrived at the Board of Elections office on Wednesday, Thursday.
That's a whole new issue. That's a whole new issue that we're just developing. Seems to be a significant number of ballots, and there seems to be a significant number of.
I would like to break in.
I shouldn't say significant.
We're going to go
There
back.
seems to
We're
be-
going to go back to Rudy Giuliani's live press conference, but a statement from the President of the United States just came out, and I'm quoting here. This is from Donald J. Trump. Just hit the wire. Associated Press. We all know why Joe Biden is rushing to falsely pose as the winner, and why his media allies are trying so hard to help him out. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The simple fact is this election is far from over. Joe Biden has not been certified as the winner of any states, let alone any of the highly contested states headed for mandatory recounts, or states where our campaign has valid and legitimate legal challenges that would determine the ultimate victor. In Pennsylvania, for example, our legal observers were not permitted meaningful access to watch the counting process. Legal votes decide who is president, not the news media. Beginning Monday, our campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated. The American people are entitled to an honest election. That means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ballots. This is the only way to ensure the public has full confidence in our election. It remains shocking that the Biden campaign refuses to agree with this basic principle and wants ballots counted even if they were fraudulent, manufactured, or cast by ineligible or deceased voters. Only a party engaged in wrongdoing would lawfully keep observers out of the count room and then fight in court to block their access. So what is Joe Biden hiding? I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote count they deserve and that democracy demands, end quote. And I want to repeat this last paragraph, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go back and quote the President of the United States. I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote count they deserve and democracy demands. We're going to now go back. That is a statement just put out by the President of the United States of what he thinks about CNN and what he thinks about BBC and others calling this. I want to go back now to the cauldron of Philadelphia, Rudy Giuliani taking on the in the lion's den, Rudy Giuliani.
Sometime next week, unless I'm wrong, I think there'll be a similar case in Atlanta where similar things were going on. Republican inspectors showed up. They expected to inspect, right, like they do for absentee ballots, and they were uniformly kept out. They got to see nothing. And remember, Atlanta had to do the same thing you had to do. They had to catch Biden up because on election night he had lost. And he was down by a very good margin with only 85% to go. Something very similar happened in Michigan, Wisconsin, can't say Arizona, but in almost every state where President Trump had a lead going into the end of election night, some of the leads looking almost mathematically impossible to undo with the 5%, 10%, 20% of the vote. In almost all of those, this practice was followed. And I'm right now trying to find, did we get to see any ballots that were used for that purpose? If that's the case, then we have a massive nationwide lawsuit. So it could affect more than one state. But right now, the one that it definitely affects is the state of Pennsylvania in a very, very big way.
Just want to make sure.
But it's not the only infirmity in this state.
I understand.
There are dead people voting, no question about it.
Okay, hang on.
Any number of complaints.
Bring
on
that for a second.
We
Okay.
have very serious
What
problems.
Rudy is laying out is the heart of the matter, to get into federal court, to then get into, stop this process, go into the certification process, get discovery. Because there's a lot more here. There's a lot of dead people that voted. There's a lot of irregularities of polling, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Where you're going to get down to the thing is to go back to this leader of the black community, certain non-Trump supporter, who says that something went on in the community, that this is not right, that there was not the support for Biden that there was for Barack Obama, and, quote, he does not want the black community, the African-American community, to be what he called the face of the con. I think that's the most powerful statement I've heard. He's out talking about it, and he says this has got to be gotten down to. Rudy Giuliani is discussing in a live quasi-chaotic press conference in Philadelphia, he and Corey Lewandowski, with a hostile press who are upset that they would do this. Remember, CNN came out with no new justification at all and came out and dropped declared a winner at the very moment they knew that President Trump's lawyer was coming forward with a press conference to outline. And what Rudy's talking about now is multi-state, right? And as you start to pick the scab on this thing, a lot of pus is going to come out. Maggie Vanderberg, Jack Maxey, Team Barry, we're going to go back. Let's go back to the press conference.
I've spoken about 50 people.
No, you said you didn't say 25 of them.
I have statements from 25. We've spoken to 50. Every single inspector.
That's 50 people in 3 days that the president's lawyer has been able to find.
Oh, no. I didn't speak to them. Are you the lawyer for the other side, by the way? Well, you should get paid for it. The reality is that nobody has come forward, even though I've called the state party, the city party. I've asked, is there anyone that wants to come forward and say that there's anything unusual about the man in charge of this whole process, who watched the whole thing, has already come forward and given us a signed statement that no one got a chance to inspect. Now, unless this man had a secret opportunity to do it, there was one person in charge of all these people. He was there constantly for both days. Not a single Republican got a chance to view a single ballot. Now, if we got to view 10 or 12, well, then we'll reduce our number from 120,000 to 110,000. But you produced this man for me. So far, he hasn't come out of the woodwork. And, well, then, maybe, yeah.
Okay, you're
Well, if I
listening
were the
to
commissioner of
Real
the city,
America's Voice on the
think-
AmericasVoice.news
didn't allow
is the
people-
website that you can go to. Send to all your friends. You're in the war room pandemic. Stephen K. Bannon, Maggie. I just want to break in here for a second. You got Rudy Giuliani, and here's what you see right now: members of the press actually acting as the lawyers for the other side, right? Instead of recording this and asking kind of basic questions and sharp questions, they're arguing the point, right? They're trying to argue this with Rudy. Rudy and Corey Lewandowski. I just want to break for a second. Maggie, can you rate? The President of the United States has just done is this the live thing? Is that from Philadelphia? Where's that
No,
from?
this is this fellow, Tariq Nasheed, he's hammering now. He's responding every few minutes about this outrageous notion.
Describe who he is, a very important individual. And I want to give the background. This is what's very important. These guys know what's going on. They know it's a scam. He's coming forward to walk through it is, and then Maggie, I want you to read the president's. We're going to go back to the press conference after Rudy speaks up. Remember, Rudy's a street fighter. Okay, and there's a lot of smart lawyers. Rudy's a great lawyer, great prosecutor. There's a lot of smart lawyers in back of this. I've talked to a lot of very brilliant lawyers over the last 24 hours, and they say, hey, they are not getting involved in this to chase rabbits. This is meaningful, and it's got to get to the bottom of it because this election has to be looked at as favorable. Jack, tell us what's going on here, and
let me give the audience a little understanding of who this fellow is. Tariq Nasheed. He's part of Foundational Black America. He's a journalist. He calls himself the world's #1 race baiter. I bait racists, and I expose them. And quite frankly, I think he's exposing the Democratic Party right now. He is posting one thing after another that reasonable people should look at and start questioning the outcome. I recommend everybody follow him at Tariq, TARIQ, NASHEED. He is making some brilliant commentary. He just posted a video from the Hill, and it's a group of what looked like all white people with some suspicious haircuts and coloring, and he makes the remark, notice how it's mostly only white people seem to be celebrating in Philadelphia, but it was the black people who gave him the vote. How's that possible? It's a reasonable question, America. And for black America, many of you who have seen the light concerning economic nationalism, seen that this president cares about all races, all people, you got to fight for your votes and take down those crooked people in your communities who are keeping your voices from being heard.
Dan, if we got to take a break now, we can just let the guys in Denver. We're going to blow through another break. I want to thank, by the way, the folks in Denver, Real America's Voice, Rob Sig, Howard Diamond, the entire team, and obviously the content guys, John Sullivan, but particularly the operations guys, have been under constant assault with a DDoS attack. We got the show up an hour. I get it. They are patriots. And, on a Saturday, we're doing special broadcasts today. We're going to be announcing other special broadcasts to keep you up 24/7. The president, go back to Tariq in a second. Give for people coming in late, walk through what those tweets were this morning, if you can pull them up, Jack, and how I think powerful it was, what he had to say, and his warning really to the African-American community.
Well, he says, quote, black people should be on alert out here, especially at any celebrations, because the Democrats might have pulled a finesse here. And they keep giving us all this fake praise to black people so we can receive the black backlash when it comes. He's basically saying that they're being set up by the Democratic Party. He wonders why it is that we've been told for 6 months that it was going to be the suburban areas that were going to support Trump. He says that inside his community, there is no love for Joe Biden. So how it was that he was able to exceed the vote count of a Barack Obama is unbelievable to him, and frankly, it's unbelievable to a lot of people. And he says, if we were going to keep it 100%, it looks like the Democrats might have pulled some type of finesse with this election. The problem is white liberals have a history of doing deceptive moves, then making it look like black people are the face of the con.
So I just want to know for Tariq, there's no way in the Trump movement is going to blame black people for this. This is it's not just the Democratic Party. It's deeper than that. It's deeper and more systemic. With the globalist apparatus. This is why African Americans, particularly African American males, are starting to resonate with the Trump message and the Hispanics because they understand economic nationalism. They understand the potential of access to capital. They understand the better jobs that could be out there, the investment back in the community, in their communities, in the Baltimores and the St. Louises and the Detroits of the world. That this is what President Trump stands for. So I think that this is all part of this realignment. And I think that this lesson, and this is why we have to fight now. It'd be very easy to say, okay, CNN called, the New York Times called, all my liberal friends are calling me. You know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to play, go play tennis this afternoon or do something like that. Now, I realize the President of the United States is playing golf right now. I think it's it. But listen, this guy put it on his shoulders for the last month. He's 74 years old. He deserves to go out and get some fresh air, walk around, hit a few balls, miss a few 3-footers, right? Get his mind off things. And I want to come back to where these rallies are today. Our own Maggie Vanderberg is going to be live. She's going to be out all day today with bikers, with Trump people. There's rallies all over. I want to go, Maggie, to what President Trump said. Can you please reread? This is Associated Press just posted a statement by the President of the United States. And to me, it's the most clarifying thing. And my phone's blown up with, oh, you guys are crazy. You guys are chasing this, etc. Can you read what the president said, Maggie?
Yeah, it's basically what we
Yeah,
talked about earlier.
just repeat it. I want to hear. I want to hear the entire thing. It's so
This is a
powerful.
text from President Trump on the election result. We all know why Joe Biden is rushing to falsely pose as the winner and why his media allies are trying so hard to help him. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The simple fact is this election is far from over. Joe Biden has not been certified as the winner of any states, let alone any of the highly contested states heading for mandatory recounts or states where our campaign has valid and legitimate legal challenges that could determine the ultimate victor. In Pennsylvania, for example, our legal observers were not permitted meaningful access to watch the counting process. Legal votes decide who is president, not the news media.
Okay. And by the way, is it continue on, or is that it?
Yes. Beginning Monday, our campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated. The American people are entitled to an honest election. That means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ballots. This is the only way to ensure the public has full confidence in our election. It remains shocking that the Biden campaign refuses to agree with that basic principle and wants ballots counted even if they are fraudulent, manufactured, or cast by ineligible or deceased voters. Only a party engaged in wrongdoing would unlawfully keep observers out of the count room and then fight back in court to block their access. So what is Biden hiding? I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote count they deserve and that democracy demands.
It's amazing. Okay, I want to go. We're going to go to what's the status of the rallies today? We're going to go to Ben Bergquam in a moment in Maricopa County in Phoenix. Go ahead, Jack.
Maybe Tariq is listening because he is not slowing down with the hammer on Biden. He says, shout out to everyone who believes that Jim Crow Biden, author of the anti-black 94 crime bill, received more votes in this election than Obama did when he ran. All because we just wanted Trump out so bad. This guy is 100% against Trump, but he is literally a logical person, and he just can't believe how this could have happened. Neither can we.
I tell you what, momentarily, Denver's going to hook us up with Ben Bergquam, who's done such a great job reporting in Maricopa County. Remember, all these are important. Georgia's important. Nevada's important. Arizona's important. Pennsylvania's important. What's happening in Michigan's important. There's a recount going to be in Wisconsin. It's all important. Don't let the media, don't let the propaganda department of the party of Davos, don't let information warfare beat you. Okay? Don't let psychological warfare beat you. You have to be stronger than that, right? And if you need to contact your friends and talk, get in a prayer group or whatever, just be strong. Okay? I told you the other day, there are going to be some days, it's beautiful, sunny, 70 degrees here in Washington, D.C., but for many people, it's a cloudy day. Okay? The mainstream media apparatus has called it for Biden. Rudy Giuliani's walking through a very logical federal lawsuit that he's also talking about could expand pretty dramatically and be something meaningful. We heard, I think, from one of the smartest guys out there, Richard Baris at Big Data Polling. He said this thing's way early to call. One of these things says, just look at what Fox called this on, I think at 8:30, 9 o'clock on or 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, called Arizona, and we just had a situation where Trump carved back 9,000 votes. He's now around 20,000 down, and they're still finding ballots. Everybody, Jack Maxey here on the show has put people on notice. Where are your provisional ballots? Okay. We also know Corey just laid out a woman who died who just voted. Okay, that just doesn't happen, and there's a lot more where that came from. People say, well, it's going to be 200,000, 100,000 votes. We don't know that until this thing is certified. Like the president's saying, until it's verified, until we know the chain of custody. And what Tariq's saying is that there's a huge statistical anomaly here that smart people are looking at. There just seems to be, in these battleground states, tens of thousands of votes that came in just for Biden with no down ticket, right? Whereas every other state, you had Trump and the senator and the rest of the party running fairly closely, as did Biden in other states. And this is called, I wish Rudy had been a little more specific. I love me some Rudy, but sometimes a little more specific in this press conference. And I would have said, in discovery, we're going to find this, right? That there's enough poll watching problems. There's enough observer problems. There's enough already ballots that weren't verified. There's enough dead people already, signed affidavits. I think he had 25 there. He could have brought another 50. They didn't want to have too many. right? And people know there's so many more out there. Understand they would be attacked. In fact, Jack, you told me about, is it the postal worker? Walk to the postal worker that stepped up here?
There's a postal worker in Erie, Pennsylvania, who came forward and said he overheard his supervisors. He was present when they were discussing backdating all of the ballots that had arrived after the time period. So ballots that came in beyond the time that they were allowed to, the post office was backdating them with official stamps. This is thoroughly illegal under any standpoint. Imagine how many of us who send in our taxes would love to have a friend down at the post office to backdate them 6 months. Not going to happen, people. This is fraud. And this fellow was immediately removed from his job by his fellow postal inspectors. Now, other thing we got to remember, people, that everyone is forgetting, the Postal Service is run by a public service union that is a supporter of the Democratic Party and a public supporter of Biden. How is it that we allowed these people to be in charge of the vote? I mean, this is completely unreasonable on every single level, but not a comment from the press, no questions, no doubts. But even people who are not political are starting to wonder, how could this have happened?
Okay, I want you, Maggie, give it to me straight with the bark on. What people right now in the influencer community, what, are they in the mumble tank? Are they melting down? Where do people stand?
There are a lot of people having a serious meltdown on social media. I think a lot of the diehard people who have been paying attention and know what's going on see through this. They're getting the message. It's trickling down to them. I've been correcting people as well. Like, hey, don't be saying we're not going to be like them. We're going to accept a Biden presidency. No, you need to hold firm and call out the fraud and to not just roll over and let the Democrats steal this one. So luckily, I think a lot of the strongest voices and fighters are out there. They're fighting. There's definitely a little fatigue, though, because I think people were tired in the lead up to this election, and I think they wanted it to just be done after November 3rd, but we are far from done.
What we tell them there, that the November 3rd was just the start. It wasn't
Yeah.
and it's not going to end. By the way, Trump won. We're going to close. He's going to be inaugurated on the 20th, but it doesn't stop there. That's when in the fact of closing on our victory, they will go through a bigger meltdown you've ever seen. You haven't seen anything yet. They're going to be out there destroying. And the reason some people, let me be blunt, the reason some people, tomorrow Mitt Romney's on, he's doing a full Ginsburg. And Ginsburg is the guy, you see the lawyer, but years ago when he was, I think, Homeland Security, it was something issue. And I think it was right after 9/11. He went and did all the Sunday shows. They call it a full Ginsburg. It's only been done a few times in history. Somebody do all the major Sunday shows. Mitt Romney's there tomorrow. And Mitt Romney is going to tell you that it's just these barbarians, these people who breathe through their mouths, the worst element of the deplorables that back Trump and doing these irrational things, and he's got to lose graciously and just toss the keys and not care anything about what President Trump said about this. And so far, there's not a lot of guys manned up from the administration campaign. There will be, but look, a lot of people are over there and sitting there going, hey, is my career, will I ever get back on CNN? Are they taking a list? AOC says there's a list being made, right? And there's this list is going to be, by the way, we have Ben. I'm sorry. Let's go to Phoenix. Let's go to Maricopa County. We got Ben Bergquam right now. Let's go live to Ben. So Ben, give us.
Hey Steve, hey guys. We're out here.
Yeah. Tell me first off what happened.
Go ahead, Steve.
Give me first off your reaction to the Maricopa vote, and then I want to ask you about CNN and everybody calling it. But tell us about Maricopa and the numbers this morning.
Well, look, it's crazy. We're down to 20,000 votes separating President Trump from Joe Biden, and some of these news media that called it early, you mentioned Fox News called it early, they still haven't retracted that, calling the vote. It's just absolutely ludicrous. We have seen it shrinking. Obviously, we're down to around 100,000 votes to count, so the numbers are still tough, but the problem is, we're talking about votes that people still don't trust. When you look at the potential for fraud, when you look at how many people are coming out day after day after day saying their vote still hasn't been counted, when they've contacted Maricopa Elections Office and being told that they will find out 10 days after the official results are announced, whether or not their vote was counted, and then at that point, then they can request to have their vote counted. It's absolutely insane. It's clear the coup was set up. It's clear the plan was in motion long before this. It's clear that COVID was used as a cover to steal millions of votes, and that's what we're seeing across the country. The issue that we have in this country right now is finding the evidence. We have to prove it. We have to go in each one of these. That's why it's so important that as you mentioned, as Rudy Giuliani's there in Pennsylvania, and we're in Georgia and Michigan and all over the country, that we have an opportunity for discovery so that we can prove what intuitively we all know to be true. Like you mentioned, the Postal Service, a Democrat union controlling this. Intuitively, we know that there are people within that organization who will do things, and we already have examples of it. I have examples of ballots that were dipped in the water so that when they're sent out, when they come back, they're invalidated. There's so many examples, and this is why they wanted mail-in ballots.
Yeah, Ben, hang on 1 second. We'll take a short commercial break, pay for this, and we're going to come back to you in Maricopa County. Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice, top young reporter out there doing great. Maricopa County, we're going to try to also get Raheem Kassam from Philadelphia about Rudy. All next on War Room Pandemic. If Denver can get him on, let me know.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You're in the War Room right now because of everything that's going on. We were trying to do specials over the weekend. We'll get back to you. It turns out because of the DDoS attack, that may not be possible. We're going to try to figure out what we're going to do. Maybe Periscopes. We'll figure it out with the guys at Real America's Voice doing a great job. I want to go back out to Maricopa County in front of the election center there. Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice. Ben, do we have you?
Yep, I'm here, Steve.
So Ben, I just want to do a raw data thing. How many votes are still left outstanding as we know? Not provisionals, not military. I heard there's all kind of other stuff showing up. But right now, just what's the hard vote count?
Approximately 100,000, and we've got approximately 20,000 spread. So from this point out, President Trump needs to hit a 60% of the vote in order to win, which is, he's been close to this entire time. It really depends on where those votes are coming in from. We're still getting a lot from rural counties that are obviously swinging in his favor. From the time that the votes started coming in, everything after election night has been trending towards President Trump.
Yeah, they've been trending with high things. A lot of enthusiasm out there. A lot of Trump supporters around the nation today are going to be a lot of live rallies, mini rallies. CNN just announced, you got the mainstream media piling in right when Rudy Giuliani was about to do his press conference, which was heavily attended by media, for the lawsuits of President Trump. President Trump put this amazing statement. He's not backing down, have to have a fair vote. How does that resonate with the Trump supporters out in Arizona?
100%. Everyone I spoke to, and I believe we have a clip of that. I don't know if we have it set to air. Every single Trump supporter that I spoke to said they believe President Trump should fight this to the end, to the Supreme Court and beyond, wherever it takes him, and they will be with him the entire way. Now the question remains, these are the hardcore, they will go down with the ship no matter what. The question remains, how are the general public across the country taking it? And we're still waiting to see on that. But President Trump supporters, we're seeing it all over the country. You mentioned it. There's going to be a huge rally here at the state capitol later today. There's going to be thousands of cars coming down, and every state capitol across the country are going to have rallies to count the legal vote all over the country today.
I think the count the legal vote is fine. Ben, you've been doing amazing. If we have Ben's package, I want to play it. If not, we'll punch out and we'll see you when we're back up. We're trying to figure out our specials. But Ben, you've been doing an amazing job. Stay in Maricopa. Arizona is going to be central to this. And I'm telling you, if you look at the math, it's coming back to President Trump. It was 9,000 votes you carved in today. It's only 20,000 still is the deficit. Arizona is coming back towards President Trump. There's no doubt about it. That's why the media is not talking about Arizona today. They wanted to announce Pennsylvania and get the eyes off Arizona. So Ben, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much.
We've got a little bit of breaking news, which is so pathetic.
Okay, what do you got?
We have Boris Johnson, brave Boris. He's just sent his congratulations to Joe Biden for winning.
Guess he didn't see our
That's all right.
That's what happens when you don't get Nigel Farage. We're trying to get Boris Epshteyn from the campaign, is out in Arizona. He was one of my senior guys on the 16 campaign, a real hammer.
He looks forward to working on climate change and trade security. But look what Boris puts first. People, the Quislings across the planet are being exposed as we watch.
But Boris Johnson couldn't wait to pull the trigger on that one, right? Not wait to contest it. Maggie, any updates for people around the country? I know there's going to be big rallies. You're going to be at a Trump rally today here in Washington, D.C. Rallies in all the state capitals today, self-organizing rallies. The mainstream media, in part of their information warfare, is and people are getting pulled down for anything that supports President Trump. Who's only the commander-in-chief, the chief magistrate, and the president of the United States. Anything in support of President Trump automatically gets pulled down or put as a message. That's why I think the statement he gave, not to tweet it out, but give a statement that the Associated Press had to put that all out is amazing. What do you got, Maggie?
There is like a lot of people that only follow on the periphery who are definitely in meltdown and freaking out. But the main people who support President Trump, Brandon Tatum, DC Drano, Brandon Strzok, all of these major voices on the right are standing behind this president, even more so than establishment GOP, which is not surprising, but it's interesting.
If we can get Boris Epshteyn on there, we're going to try to from the campaign. We're going to try to do it. Otherwise, I want to tell people, okay, go to americasvoice.news. That's where you can get the streaming service. They got their own independent platform. Of course, the bad guys throughout the world, whether they're enemies foreign or domestic, we don't know if these are domestic guys or international. I know I've invested and had a lot of money in Asian companies that are under DDoS attack all the time, right? Coming out of North Korea, coming out of Manchuria, coming out of CCP land, where they're trying to take your site down and then hold you for ransom to get it back up. So everybody, just understand we're going to put the word out, and the word will get out. We're trying to do specials over the weekend. If not, we'll be back at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and we want to thank our partners, particularly at Real America's Voice, Rob Sig, Howard Diamond, and the entire crew, the entire posse for look, if we do it, Dan, we try to get it. We're trying to do the impossible here. If we can make it happen, we can do it. If we can't make it happen, we tried. We're trying to get Boris Epshteyn from the campaign, who wanted to give some really perspective of what they're seeing in Arizona. Okay, we got Boris Epshteyn. Let's bring in Boris from the Trump campaign. Boris, thank you for joining us from Maricopa County. Give us your assessment of what happened today with these new numbers coming out and the tightening of the race out there.
It's absolutely tightening, Steve. Good to be with you. So when Fox News ludicrously called this race for Joe Biden in Arizona, the difference was about 200,000 votes. As of this morning, after two drops, one in Pinal County, smaller, and then one in Maricopa County, it's down to 20,000. This morning, before the drops, it was 29,000. So we've shaved off 9,000 votes off the difference, and that's where it stands right now. And then there's a lot more ballots, up to about 100,000, that is still left to come out.
Now you're out there with Matt Whitaker. You're out there with a great team, and you're fighting hard. You guys anticipate. When do you anticipate that more drops will be coming in America? Because the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about Arizona anymore. Arizona was the golden-haired boy, was the fair-haired boy, until all of a sudden the numbers started coming back for Trump. They're embarrassed. They had a 200,000 vote lead. Now they got under 20,000.
Right about 20,000. So they've lost 180,000. So the difference now is 10% of what it was when they called it, right about. So we expect more information to come out throughout the day. I think Maricopa's going to top more by 7 o'clock local, 9 o'clock Eastern tonight. I fully expect it to continue to turn positive for the president. I do expect that President Trump will end up carrying the state of Arizona. Absolutely expect it, because the numbers have been moving so strongly in his way. And this morning's release of votes was much better than any of the ones from yesterday. Yeah, so Boris, it's going his way.
Boris, hang on for 1 second. We're going to either got a hard out, or we're going to be back. You just hold that. We'll find out. Just Boris Epshteyn from the Trump campaign in Maricopa County.